ça pour rigoler. Hein.
Il a fait une saison incroyable.
Oui, de ouf en
franchement,
plus. De ouf, total.
C'est vrai que ça a rentré comme papa dans maman, on va pas se mentir. Hein. Bruce, ouais.
Ah oui, on se permet de...
ouais.
Welcome everybody, bienvenue sur The Stanley Parable. Ça fait un moment que j'ai envie de le faire ce jeu, et je vous dis bien. Parfait, le son marche cette fois, vous ne serez pas déçus. Voilà, ça marche peut-être même un petit peu trop bien, on va le descendre un tout petit peu, voilà. Hop là. Normalement là vous m'entendez très bien. Donc The Stanley Parable. Là, je n'ai jamais vu de vidéo dessus, je me suis jamais spoil. Que des moments me spoil un peu. Le seul truc que je sais, c'est qu'il faut pas lancer le jeu pendant 10 ans si on veut avoir un certain trophée. Ok, c'est bon, j'ai mon overlay. Please choose a screen and some people... Alors, français. Je vais choisir une langue pour les textes et les sous-titres. J'ai choisi, non? Oui, français. Confirmé. Vous avez déjà joué à The Stanley Parable? Non. Déplacez le curseur jusqu'à ce que l'ordinateur soit à peine visible. Voilà. Entrez l'heure actuelle. 17h25. Ah, PM. Donc c'est 5h25. Oh, c'est dur à se déplacer. 26 maintenant. Les paramètres d'accessibilité sont accessibles depuis le menu principal. Ok. Ah, c'est ça. Ah, j'adore! Regardez, là, rien que ça déjà, on voit la souris dans l'ordinateur, qui est dans l'ordinateur, qui est dans l'ordinateur, et à chaque fois ça s'allonge d'ailleurs. Alors, paramètres, crédit, retour au bureau. Alors, je vais juste m'assurer d'un petit truc. Voilà, c'est triste, mais bon. Commençons le jeu. C'est l'histoire d'un homme appelé Stanley. Je n'ai pas remarqué. Ok.
Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard.
D'accord.
Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day.
Oh là là, c'est chiant.
Every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy.
Très bien.
And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget.
D'accord.
He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Ok, oh. Ah, trop bien. Ah, punaise. On va changer mes touches. Ok, c'est bon, maintenant je les ai changées. Ouh, oh, par contre, c'est très smooth, on va dire. Ok. I hate Monday. Ah, bah. Au moins, c'est une personne normale. Alors, je vais sortir de mon bureau. 429. Ah, on est 428, mais on est un enfant. Enfin. Là, dans cette salle, on dirait un adulte normal. Mais là, soit la porte est géante, soit on est un adolescent slash enfant. On peut voir toutes les portes. Ah non.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Alors pourquoi est-ce
Stanley
que...
decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Non mais c'est bon, j'ai compris, mais... Faut pas zoomer. Là, il y a 2 crayons.
Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
En gros, il est en train de me dire passe ton chemin, quoi. Ah, on peut pas sauter. Ok. On va ouvrir, celle-là je l'ai ouverte, oui. J'ai cru qu'il y avait bien une entrée au plafond. Bah. Ah d'accord, ok. On a tellement touché le clavier qu'on fait un bruit de clavier quand on appuie sur E. Oui. Ah, c'est... On va éteindre les ordinateurs, nous sommes consciencieux. Ils ont l'air de tous partis. Ah, je torse, oui. Même si beaucoup le détestent. 420, rien.
Stanley clicked on literally every single door in the office, because he doesn't pick up well on cues from his environment.
Tout m'a l'air fermé, hein. Pas grand chose d'ouvert. Ok. Ça fait très superliminal, là.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Là, il vient de me dire il entra dans la porte à gauche. Est-ce que je vais à droite? La réponse est oui.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Ok. Bizarre ce bureau, hein. J'ai déjà vu des bureaux, c'est pas comme ça que ça se passe vraiment d'habitude. Hein. Salut.
Yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all.
Ok, ça fait très superliminal. On peut pas commander.
Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
On dirait que les gens ont juste des pop en fait.
Yes, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Là, il y a quoi?
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Ouais, mais ça va. Ah, et tu peux pas revenir en arrière, j'imagine. Ah, punaise. Ok. Là, je m'engouffre un peu. Hein. On peut pas sauter. Oui.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you.
Je peux sauter ou pas? Ouais.
But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
Oh, c'est bon, ça va, j'ai compris. Et donc là, du coup, on recommence tout. Avec les mêmes trucs.
Co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Je vais tout revérifier. Hein. Si aucune porte n'est ouverte... Ça c'est fermé. Fermé.
Stanley clicked on literally
Awaiting input. Eh, ça a changé ça, attendez. Eh Eh, ça a changé par contre. Input received. One. Ça veut dire quoi? Ça a changé par contre. Ça change à chaque fois que tu meurs ou que tu finis le jeu. Ok. Ok. Ok.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors,
on va celle de gauche maintenant. Ok. 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 Ok.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Y'a pas de PC qui le contrôle, ce truc? Broom closet.
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
Si je m'enferme, ça fait quoi?
There was nothing here. No choice to make, no path to follow, just an empty broom closet.
Pour l'instant, il est vide.
To still be here. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Voilà, quoi. Donne envie d'aller en bas. Oh. On peut se baisser. Ouais, j'arrive pas à lire. J'ai juste lu le mot Louis. Ok, donc là c'est pour repartir. D'accord. On va quand même voir en haut ce qu'il y a. Oh, ça change d'ambiance. Vous pouvez fermer la porte. Executive bathroom. To be rich, it's a... Alors, être riche, est-ce un crime? Faire un crime, est-ce qu'il faut être riche? Qu'est-ce que la vie serait s'il fallait juste en prendre une? Eh ben... C'est horrible, parce que t'as pris une vie quand même, quoi. Et... Non. Ça doit être la salle du boss, donc je vais aller à l'inverse. Peut-être pour après. I am the most expensive. Je suis le boss qui...
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number. 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the
Oui.
keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing.
Oh,
He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
c'est tellement superliminal, j'adore cette ambiance, oui. Je retrouve superliminal. On n'est pas bête, on va pas sauter, hein. Je peux pas prendre ça par hasard? Je peux pas y pousser, je peux pas prendre de lumière là, parce que si je saute dans le trou, bah, je suppose qu'il y a un trou. Et je suis pas bête moi madame, hein. Je suis pas au nez de la dernière. Ou alors, il faut que je... Ah si. J'ai cru qu'il y avait rien. Je me suis emmerdé pour rien, je pensais qu'il y avait absolument que dalle. Oh, nouvelle partie donc.
Descending deeper into
Tandis
the
qu'il s'en
village,
faisait toujours plus loin.
Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Ouais, on peut pas remonter, j'imagine.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
On fera... Là pour l'instant on va faire le truc principal, d'accord?
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
Donc, qu'est-ce qu'il pourrait bien y avoir sur ce truc?
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Là, il y a un truc, là. 234, il y a un problème. Il est où le 248? On est, nous, hein, 248. Ça devrait être là-haut, là. On peut pas nous voir? 248. Ouais, il y a personne. C'est quoi ça?
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
Et est-ce qu'on va...
He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly
de toute façon, on va...
into the world?
de toute façon, on va bien le voir dans quelques secondes.
Here was the proof, the heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy
Ouais.
or sad or content, walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the
Oui.
controls once and for all.
5. D'autres boutons. J'imagine qu'il y a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Normal, hein. Ça doit être le 1. Console disable. 1, 2. Ensuite, là-bas il y a le 5. Là-haut c'est le combien? Vraiment, on y voit moins que sur FNAF Security Breach. Fermé, il faut peut-être s'allumer. J'espère que là-haut c'est le 3. Tu veux voir un peu? Ouais, allez, on va espérer. Je crois que c'est le 4. On va essayer de chercher le dernier bouton quand même. 5, 1, 2, 3. Et du coup, il nous manquerait le 4e. Ou le 3e. Qu'est-ce que je peux peut-être... Non. C'est en bas à la fin. On va bien voir de toute façon. Non? Peut-être que j'aille là-bas dans Facility Power. Et que je me suis trop... Oh là là, qu'est-ce que je dis moi? Bon alors. Ton, tin, ton, tin, ton, tin, ton. System
And when at
Power.
last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
Et là du coup on a fini.
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over?
Je suppose que non.
Yes. He had won. He had defeated the
Oui!
machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone?
Et en fait du coup, je crois qu'il y a plein de décisions à prendre.
What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been
J'ai cru que j'étais en train de tomber.
but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel.
Je trouve ça très bizarre.
It will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door.
Stanley stepped through the open door. Et si je vais à l'inverse? Je vais faire demi-tour. Ok, ça aurait été sympa qu'on puisse faire demi-tour. Mais après, je vais pas dire ce qu'il faut faire non plus, hein, genre.
Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of
Regardez bien tout, voir s'il n'y a pas un élément qui bug.
This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Et donc là, du coup, on a fini. L'une des fins. Succès déverrouillé, terminer le jeu. Obtenir votre premier succès. Et du coup, à chaque fois, en fait, on va recommencer ici. Et on peut faire tous les choix qu'on veut. Et là, du coup...
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
On fait pas parce que je pense qu'elles sont fermées, celles-là. C'est pas possible de changer.
When Stanley came to a set of two open
Là, on va
doors,
repasser
he
par là.
entered the door on his left.
Ensuite, ce qu'on va faire, c'est qu'on va aller tout droit. Et au lieu de monter vers
There
le...
was not a
On
single
va descendre
person
et on va
here.
prendre la bagnole.
Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Oui. Bon, je vais prendre la voie.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss.
Ah, punaise.
Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was
1,
crazy.
2, B, 4.
And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None
Ah
of
non,
it
j'ai cru que
made
c'était le même couloir.
logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went?
Ça y est.
And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. Go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground.
On est vraiment dans un rêve.
He imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he
Ça se répète, ça se répète.
And wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams.
Bon,
The
non.
truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream.
Donc c'est un rêve ou pas?
Float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up.
Mais sur
He
une chaise.
felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been.
Ok.
My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
Ouais, la voix, elle commence à partir un peu. Surprise! You're not in a dream.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone wake me up. My name is Stanley.
Je me cogne contre le mur pour m'aider.
I have an office. I am real. Please, just
Wow, qu'est-ce qui se passe?
tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who
Mais c'est
am
tout rouge!
I? And everything went black.
Qu'est-ce qui s'est passé?
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella
Yeah,
woke
that's-
up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal.
Avec une voix dans sa tête.
Sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day, the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life.
C'est
She
génial!
had no time for this. So it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Mais elle avait une voix dans sa tête. The end is never the end. La fin n'est jamais une fin. Je vais s'appuyer sur E là. Hein. Ok. Boom!
All of his co-workers were gone.
Oui.
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Ça change de place! Punaise! J'en ai raté un, j'ai raté la fin. Chaque fois que tu réveilles, en fait, faut... Bon alors, là j'ai fait... Ah non, là il me manque encore un truc. Là il me manque, vous savez, quand on monte chez le patron, il me manque le... l'ascenseur.
Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Intéressant. Toujours rien au placard.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Ok, on arrive là. On ouvre la porte. Marqué quoi? Business strategy. Ah, c'est horrible. Le pauvre petit panda. On rentre ici. Oup. On peut appuyer sur les deux. Ah, cette musique. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. C'est la voix qui chante derrière. La blague, c'est que je peux pas me... Et pas ça non plus. Je vais juste appuyer sur le bouton. Ouais. Non, mais ne me dites pas que c'est un faux ascenseur. Moi qu'il faut faire genre haut, haut, bas, haut, un truc qu'on retrouvera plus tard. C'est un ascenseur fake! Punaise! Je me suis fait baiter pour rien. On va revenir en arrière en plus. Eh mais attendez, c'est pas le même? I've got the feeling money for stealing, but not yours. Ça change à chaque fois. Ou alors ça change peut-être. Par exemple, là je suis monté ou je suis descendu, je sais plus. Là je crois que je suis monté. Et si je descends... Est-ce que ça change le texte? Non. Dommage. J'ai cru que je l'ai trouvé un truc incroyable là.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it
Chaque fois, j'ai
be?
l'impression qu'il y a des bouts de papier, en
Stanley
fait, mais non.
wondered aloud to
Je
no
suis sûr qu'il y a un
end.
autre truc, là.
He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues to his situation. But his attention was caught by a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could its purpose be? In
Là, il y a
fact,
ça, là.
this keypad guarded
Ah,
a
mais c'est parce
terrible
que je suis à
secret
côté de
that lay
ça.
buried below his feet. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret pin number, 2845. But of course,
5482.
Stanley couldn't
Je vais tester à
possibly
l'envers.
own this.
8245 4582.
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Maintenant, je sais qu'il y a quelque chose. Et si je descends et que je remonte? Je passe tout. Ah, j'ai passé... J'ai skip... Oh ouais, j'ai skip. Est-ce que je peux remonter ou pas? Je peux remonter.
Never mind. Stanley actually got back into the elevator and went back up. Silly me. Why did Stanley do that when he knew that it would just lead back to his boss's office? Well, that's a great question. I just can't wait to find out.
Il va se passer un truc. Il va se passer un truc, moi je vous le dis. Alors... Qu'est-ce qui a changé? Si rien n'a changé, je suis...
Here we are, Stanley. It's your boss's office. Exactly the way it was before you got onto the elevator. It's still just exactly what it is. What a decision you've made to come up here and look at the office again. This has fleshed out the plot of the story in new and fascinating ways I could have never anticipated. It's that keen eye for storytelling that you have. An
Oh, c'est
incessant
bon.
rapid fire of critical plot points, one after the other, weaving a rich tapestry of uncompromising narrative. Wow. I'm bolted to the edge of my seat.
2, 8, 4, 5. Je vais voir un truc. Dommage, 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 dommage. On aurait pu y avoir un bon petit easter egg. Ça m'étonne quand même qu'on puisse retourner dans le bureau du patron, quoi. C'est un code. Peut-être. Bon! Tout cela n'ayant servi à rien.
Now he's getting back into the elevator and going down again. Ladies and gentlemen, how does he keep coming up with all of this?
Et si je remonte encore?
Did you think we were going to go forward down the spooky corridor? No. It's time once again to go back up in the elevator. I can't even begin to grapple with what might be up there. Is it the boss's office again? Or what if it's the boss's office this time? The suspense is killing me.
Au bout d'un moment, au bout d'un moment, il va y avoir un truc, je suis sûr. Un truc qui va se passer là. Il va bien se taire. J'ai vraiment cru que...
It's the boss's office.
J'ai cru qu'il y avait vraiment quelque chose.
This absolutely changes everything for me. Give me a time out here for a minute while I process this.
C'est génial. Ouais, c'est bon, t'as fini de te reposer là?
Okay, I'm ready. I'm prepared to embrace this stunning revelation and to move forward with... No! No, wait! No! I need more time to process.
Non. Ah, mais non, non, c'est long. C'est génial, mais punaise, mais... Bon, t'as fini de te reposer, là?
All right. I have fully come to terms with it. I have made space in my worldview for this astonishing new reality. As before, I turn to your expert eye for gripping narrative, Master Stanley.
Il y a quoi de ce côté? Oh, j'ai... Hop, 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 hop. Ah, bah non. Alors, attendez. Si j'avance là. Ouais. Non, il y a vraiment rien. Dommage, dommage. On peut pas... Attendez. Paramètres. Vidéo. J'adore ce bruit. Élevé. Général. Champ de vision. Unité de souhait, j'ai juste à descendre un peu. Et hop.
Of course. Going back down in the elevator. How did I not anticipate it? I mean, sure, now it's obvious, but you have to understand that 30 seconds ago, this kind of thing had never been attempted before. I had no frame of reference to even anticipate it. That's just how revelatory Stanley's decision-making is. A breath of fresh air in a landscape of storytelling that has grown stale and repetitive.
Bon, vous devinez ce qu'on va faire ensuite. Et hop. Elle en a marre, la voix.
You know what? I've just thought of something. Hold on, let's stop for a moment. Don't you realize? It's the anticipation, Stanley. You and I, we have no way of knowing what will be at the top of this elevator. But the suspense, the agony of waiting and anticipating and having to guess, that's the real thrill. Oh, I simply don't want to let that feeling go. It's so precious, so fleeting. Why don't we take this elevator ride nice and slow? There we go. Isn't this so much more exciting? You know, Stanley,
No,
it
c'est long.
seems like nowadays the only thing that audiences want is to be shocked as loudly and frequently as possible. They want big, explosive moments flung right in their faces from the very moment that things get started. But where's the tension? Where's the trust in the audience to build a slow and nuanced appreciation for the story, the characters? Why aren't we given time to imagine the surprises? To have
Là, il y a
to
quoi, là?
think and to anticipate and then to marvel at the eventual reveal. This is storytelling, Stanley. What you and I are doing right now. This is the most exciting narrative to be developed in years.
Là, il y a un
And
truc.
it's really all because of you. You're the one who took this bold step of revisiting the exact same locations over and over. Truly, I mean it. This is unique and different. It's not like anything else out there. You see, I want stories that surprise me, Stanley. I want to have to think. I want to be engaged and not pandered to. We're being fed such unimaginative drivel all the time, and we all know it. Which is why
Mais là, il y a
we're
des
so
trucs.
starved for
Dans
content.
un camion à cet étage.
Sharp and vital and alive.
Il y a un problème.
That's why people like you so much, Stanley. Because you're not afraid to spit in the face of tradition. You're a role model, you know? People look up to you. Which
C'est
is
le
why,
même truc.
though I didn't know when to
Non,
spring
ça,
this
c'est
on
pas
you,
le même
but,
truc.
well, I've gathered a little press conference for you, so that you can talk about your work and your storytelling and your life. Yes, I know you're not much for the public eye, but I thought it would especially mean a lot to the people who have been following you from the beginning. They really look up to you, Stanley. I don't know if you realize the impact you have on them. This is the kind of gesture
Ça a
that might
changé.
leave a tremendous impact on them for the better. Oh good, we're here.
Oh tiens, ça a changé. Et franchement...
Okay, the room where we're holding the press conference should be just around the corner here somewhere.
C'est parce que... Stanley, live on stage. All eyes on Stanley. World Elf is human being, all trucs révélés. Donc en gros, l'humain le mieux, la meilleure santé humaine, c'est tous les trucs révélés. Comment ils ont fait pour faire les pyramides. Et le mec qui est allé sur Mars. Je suppose que c'est lui là, ça doit être le créateur du jeu ou un truc comme ça. Attendez. Je me méfie. Très bien, je me méfie quand même. Du genre, un escalier infini... Non, ça va. World Peace, baby.
Ah, yes, here it is, just through this door.
Vous connaissez. On peut pas y aller là-bas? Vraiment pas? Aucun moyen? On peut toujours pas sauter?
All right, are you ready? I've told them you're going to speak a little bit about the nature of surprise in storytelling and what it means to craft a truly unpredictable narrative. Oh, don't worry, you'll do great. Just be yourself and speak
C'est
from the
génial.
heart.
Remember where you
really
came
proud
from.
of you, Stanley. Okay, it looks like they're ready for you. Go get them.
Donc on a une famille, regardez. Stanley, Mi. Ok. The dude who came... Le mec qui est arrivé avec une pizza. The Lord. Doing great. Oh, génial! Wouhou! Salut à tous! Yeah! Stanley! T'étais là ou étaient tous mes coworkers en fait? Oh, le son par contre! Oh. On a fini. Oh non! Non! Au moins on sera fait chier pour l'avoir cet
All of his
ending.
co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Il est où le truc là? C'est avant?
No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Mais... Bah...
Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single
Oui...
difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
On va faire tout ce qui...
Stanley clicked on literally every single door in the office, because he doesn't pick up well on cues from his environment.
On va toucher toutes les portes. Wow, ça a changé, attendez. Mais ça a changé! Il n'y avait pas ce couloir là avant. Donc là, du coup, maintenant, voilà. On va faire tout ce qu'il nous dit, mais à l'inverse. J'ouvrirai toutes ces portes.
Wow, yes, this room. What a beautiful, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Là-bas, il y a le meeting room. J'ai dit que cette fois, on faisait tout ce qu'il disait à l'inverse.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten
Là, on
off
va
on
attendre.
foot here. I'm not your enemy, really.
Oui, t'as le Non, mais t'inquiète pas.
I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make.
Je suis sûr qu'on peut tomber là-dessus. Pour l'instant, on va juste suivre ça. Mais c'est fou toutes les possibilités que t'as.
This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself, to put your work aside, to let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
Qui? Mommy, l'angle. On va fermer la porte.
That's her, Stanley.
J'ai décroché direct. 427.
Oh, Stanley, is that you?
Oui, c'est
Hold
moi.
on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven.
427.
All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Gotcha.
Quel enfoiré!
Come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here.
Mais... Ma femme!
This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
Hein? Bonjour, employé 427. Appuyez sur N.
Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence.
Mais qu'est-ce qu'il faut faire? Oui, appuyer sur G. Si j'appuie pas. J'appuierai pas sur G. N'appuierai pas. Bah, trop tard, j'appuie sur N.
Pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do.
Voilà.
Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's
Je ne
chosen.
sais pas quoi ce qu'il faut faire. Ouais, je peux bouger ma souris et je peux avancer en arrière. W.
But in his mind, in his mind, he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was
Bonjour, le monsieur, je suis français.
Return to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him.
Sur G pour regarder la télévision.
And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly.
En fait, on est juste dans sa tête pour passer du temps entre potes.
So, he went further. He imagined that he came to two...
J'ai cru que ma femme allait disparaître, ça aurait été vraiment horrible.
Either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold.
Ok. Appuie sur X pour préparer le dîner.
As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with
Bienvenue dans les backrooms.
paths and destinations.
C'est ça, c'est les backrooms, c'est sûr.
Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable.
Pour une histoire aux enfants.
It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again.
On est d'accord que ça contamine là. Hein.
And again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just.
Ça fait vraiment backroom avec les toits en tuiles là. On va dire à sa femme que vous l'aimez.
But there is no answer. How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he
Pourquoi je peux appuyer?
the more he forgets which life is the real one.
Allez vous coucher.
And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it.
Ok. J'attendrai le temps qu'il faut. Mon PC commence à chauffer. Fait wow, t'es censé appuyer sur P là. Mais non, Stanley ne va pas appuyer sur P. De toute façon, Stanley a mis son clavier en AZERTY. Enfin, en QWERTY. Donc, Stanley ne va pas pouvoir appuyer sur P parce que P n'est pas la bonne touche.
You see? Can he just not hear me?
Merde.
How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself?
J'ai 428 déjà. Appuie sur T pour te remettre pour ne rien remettre en question. Ah, non, je suis pas 427, je suis 428 déjà. Donc tu vas te calmer.
I suppose I can't. Not in the way I want him to. But
Bon.
I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again.
Veuillez mourir.
Pushed a button. And I tried again. And Stanley pushed a button. And I tried.
J'ai pas touché de bouton.
Stanley knew the office layout like the back of his hand. It was only a matter of time before he found the others, wherever they were.
Ça a changé.
Just a matter of time.
Ça a changé. Attendez. Peut-être que je fasse ça. Peut-être que j'éteigne les deux PC. Il éteint l'autre là? Ouais. Bizarre ce bruit dehors, si vous voyez ce que je veux dire. Bon. Bon, bah vu qu'apparemment dans ce foutu jeu on contrôle. Et là le truc il est redevenu normal.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley
Et cette fois, au lieu d'aller tout...
Perhaps he wanted
Ah
to stop
si.
by the employee lounge first.
Bon, on va continuer à aller tout droit.
The lounge was
Vous
sublime,
savez pourquoi?
a work of art.
Parce que je suis sûr qu'on peut
But
descendre
eager to get
sans
back to
mourir.
business, Stanley took
Et
the
qu'on peut
first
tomber
and
sur la
foremost
barrière.
left.
En fait, on est arrivé en haut et on est resté en haut. Alors que je suis sûr qu'on peut tomber là-dessus, là, sur cette barrière-là. The jump. Penalty for misuse relief. Wow, 5000! Woo.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not sure.
Et...
I realize that investing your trust in
Tac.
someone else.
Et là, dès qu'on va passer au-dessus, je saute.
is that the story has been about nothing
Wow,
but
c'est haut
you
quand même.
all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. What? Really? I was in
Oh.
the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you.
Ouais, c'est ça, vas-y, moi je me tire. Danger everywhere.
Let me prove that I'm on your
Parfait.
side. Give me a chance.
2B1. Ouais, d'accord. Oh. Ah, c'est nouveau là. 2B3. 1, 2, B4. Trouvez 1, 2, B4. Non. Non.
Now listen carefully, this is important.
Ok.
Stanley walked through the red door.
On va l'écouter. On reviendra. Et on passera par la porte 2.
Thank God you are willing to listen to me. Do you see that I really have wanted you to be happy all this time? The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here. running and running and running, just the way you're doing right now.
Non.
Don't you see that it's killing us, Stanley?
Oh,
I wanted to stop.
c'est long.
We would
Ouais,
both
ouais.
be so much happier if we just stopped. And I think I have a solution. Here, let me show you.
J'ose pas rentrer.
What do we want? What are we looking for? Here. Yes. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? If we just stay right here, right in this moment with this place, Stanley, I think I feel happy. I actually feel happy.
Tant mieux. Je vais mourir si je reste là, pas vrai? Pourquoi je le sens vraiment pas? Pourquoi je sens que je vais mourir là? Bien au centre là. Je vais rester là un petit moment histoire de voir ce qui se passe un petit peu. Puis s'il se passe rien, on va en se dire. Ok, ça c'est bleu. Je pense qu'il va rien se passer. On peut partir.
No, wait. Where are you going?
Ok.
Right. Where were we?
On va lui faire passer par plein d'émotions. Allez, on ressort. On re-rentre. On peut tomber. Faire tout le tour. Et hop. Pas l'impression qu'on puisse. Non, on peut pas. Ok. Beurre. Bien.
Oh no. Stay away from those stairs. If you hurt yourself, if you die, the game will reset. We'll lose all of this. Please, no, Stanley, let me stay here. Don't take this from me.
J'ai pas envie. Il m'a fait pitié.
Good, good. We can't be too safe. Promise me you won't go back there. Just stay here.
Non, je peux pas. Non, mais attends. Non, mais tu peux pas me dire genre juste...
No. What do we talk about? You're risking everything we achieved here.
Je suis désolé, je baisse le
Heard me
son.
before, didn't you? You will die. What about this isn't getting through to you? Please, Stanley, think about what you're doing.
Je sais pas, j'hésite. Non!
No!
Oh, je suis pas mort.
Thank God you lived. No. No, what are you doing, Stanley? Please, I'm asking you not to take this away from me. I can't go back to what I was before. If you die, we'll both go back. Why are you doing this?
De quoi? Revenir? Ah, mais si tu veux que je revienne pas, c'est comme tu veux, hein. Moi, j'étais en train de revenir, mais si tu veux pas que je revienne, pas de problème. Regarde, on va remonter. À ton avis, qu'est-ce que tu veux? Je savais pas que tu voulais que je meure. bah si tu veux que je meure et qu'on recommence, bah, pas de problème. Tu m'avais pas dit que la salle était méchante tout à l'heure. Et si la salle était... Si j'avais su que la salle était méchante tout à l'heure, j'aurais carrément pas fait ça. Et bien sûr, à ton avis, regarde, plongeant.
Stanley, let's go back to the other room.
Ah, j'ai du mal à
Can
me
you do
déplacer.
that for me?
Allez. Je te montre la pièce une dernière fois. Et après, je vais mourir. Disons que t'as pas été très sympa.
Perhaps you can. Perhaps you finally see what I'm talking about.
J'ai les jambes toutes rapetissées.
I know you'll see that we can't be happy if we leave this place. You can see that, can't you?
Je sais pas, j'hésite.
No, perhaps not.
C'est vrai que ça me rend triste là. J'ai vraiment une boule au ventre. J'ai vraiment l'impression de genre de trahir un ami quoi.
Is this really how much you dislike my game? That you'll throw yourself from this platform over and over to be rid of it? You are literally willing to kill yourself to keep me from being happy. Am I reading the situation correctly?
Arrête de me faire sentir de la pitié!
Or maybe you're just getting a kick out of it. I don't know anymore. I just wanted us to get along. But I guess that was too much to ask.
J'ai vraiment
Looks
chialé.
like you wanted to make a choice after all. Well, this one is yours.
Je te jure que s'il n'y a pas de fin, si je retourne dans la pièce là-bas, et qu'au bout de 2 minutes, même pas, il n'y a pas de fin, je vais me suicider.
Do you actually want to stay alive? Or are you just teasing me? I wanted us to be happy here, Stanley. I really did. I wish I still thought that was possible.
Tic, tac. L'horloge tourne. J'ai pas envie d'y retourner. Ça me fait de la peine. J'enlève le son. Ça y est, cette fois je le fais vraiment. J'enlève vraiment le son. Je veux plus l'entendre. Je veux plus voir ce qu'il écrit. Je vois vraiment plus ce qu'il écrit, j'entends vraiment plus rien quoi. Faut que je baisse encore le son, parce que j'entends mes bruits de pas. Si j'entends mes bruits de pas, je vais l'entendre.
Is it over? It's going to restart, isn't it? I'm going back. All of his co-workers were gone. What could
Je
it
me
mean?
sens vraiment pas bien.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had
Boom! Ah mais c'est cool.
no matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
New content.
Oh,
Hello.
new content? What does that mean, new content?
Bon. Bah, allez, vous pouvez le dire. Je suis débile à ce point-là. Hello.
Hello, and thank you for playing the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Ah, cool.
As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers. After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences the world over.
Cool.
Please, step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Oh, well, this sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe content.
J'ai tout vérifié. Oh, de la
Okay,
moquette.
so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing adventure. Is it broken? What's going on here? Should we be moving somewhere or... Oh, there we go. All right, finally, at long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready. Let's do it.
Ouais, on va le faire. Allez. Je vais me mettre comme ça, comme ça.
I have to say, initial impressions of Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, mostly tedious. It's as if Oh, okay. Let's see the content. Give me the content, Stanley.
Juste parce que j'ai reculé.
All right. All right, let's see. It's the jump circle.
C'est juste ça. Oh, mon PC il est brûlant. Oh là là, il est brûlant mon PC. Allez, on va le faire. Comment ça?
Is that it? Surely that's not all the new content. There has to be something else, right?
Et on revient sur ses pas. Toujours revenir sur ses pas. Non. Si je saute en plus. Ou pas. Vous pouvez pas sauter. Ah, j'ai débloqué un succès.
Goodness, another elevator. Stanley, I have to say, initial impressions of this game are not positive. It's just elevators and jumping. Is this what passes for exciting new content? If this is new content, then I could just read you the whole dictionary. There's 20 hours of new content right there. Hell, I could count to 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, now with over 1,000 hours of new content. And oh, wait. There's more. Very good.
C'est le même étage?
I knew there had to be something else.
Ah non.
Let's see it. I'm ready for whatever it is.
Thank you for enjoying the new content.
That's it? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. You see, Stanley? This is what happens when greedy video game developers with no respect for their fan base rush into expansion to market for no reason other than to make an easy dollar. And don't get me started on the level of craftsmanship that's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's achievements, and it's hard to believe one of them actually says, "Test achievement, please ignore." What quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find these people on Twitter and hold them personally accountable. It's my fault, Stanley. I built up too much anticipation around the new content, I'm afraid. It could never have lived up to such expectations. If you're still with me, why don't we just reset the game?
Ah, je suis
We'll
bloqué.
try to get back to what the Stanley Parable is really about. No frills, no gimmicks. Just you and me having a great time together like always.
Ok.
What do you say, friend?
Eh ben, c'est reparti. Enfoiré. Enfoiré. Ah oui, ça c'est mon bureau, ça.
Psst. Stanley, come over here. In the vent. I want to show you something.
J'espère que ça va se reproduire, hein, parce que... Alors, bonjour. Tac. Nerd. And nerd.
Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new Ultra Deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past, and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret. Take a look. I call
Génial.
it the Memory Zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC.
Une
You
porte.
see, Stanley, doesn't the Memory Zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley Parable was?
J'ai pas joué au
before it
premier
was
jeu.
sullied with a cheap re-release. Remember back in October of 2013 when the game originally launched? Back then, video games had integrity. Back then, it all meant something. Oh, the waste.
Ouvre la porte. Non. Voilà. Avant, c'était Don't Play for 5 years. C'est bien ce qui me semblait. Et en fait, maintenant, c'est plus ça. Maintenant, c'est 10 ans. C'est sympa, en tout cas. Ah, dommage qu'on puisse pas s'asseoir. Il y a un piano, là.
And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism, 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created." Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them, and now it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content.
Intéressant. Non, j'ai cru que c'était marqué une clé ou une truc comme ça. Person of the year. On, off. Les boutons. Ça va se fermer? Non, ça va. Ça y est.
Here's another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in games. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. It just needed to be left alone, to spend the rest of time collecting dust in the hallowed hall of beloved video game memories. These were simpler times.
On peut rouvrir la porte.
But I wouldn't give to go back, to have it all over again. Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this? What's down here? Oh no. Oh God, no. Stanley, it's a collection of reviews from Steam, the online video game distributor.
Steam review?
In years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here. Surely these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they?
Notre commandé.
Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this
Une
game.
Le narrateur est détestable et pas drôle. Quoi?
With his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Unfunny. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable.
On comprend pourquoi il est pas revenu, hein.
Such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them.
Intéressant. Bon. Il y a des gemmes aussi.
Okay, let's see what this one says. While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley? I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can. Oh, goodness. This is actually quite shocking for me. I always, well, to be honest, I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did. But maybe it wasn't. Oh dear, what an awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks on my otherwise unimpeachable track record.
No.
I feel like a failure. Like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley Parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remembered.
Faut pas toujours écouter ce que les gens disent.
What's this one got to say? You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish there was a skip button. A skip button? Well, yes. Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have.
Non, je dois retourner en arrière. Je ne veux pas un bouton passé. Je ne veux pas d'un bouton passé. T'as pas intérêt à m'en donner un, sinon je te tape. Tu peux revenir en arrière? Je veux pas appuyer sur ce bouton. Non, tu peux pas revenir.
And here it is. Go ahead and give it a shot. I'll pop you forward in time so that the second my incessant starts before you, with just the push of a button, you'll have zipped right past it. It's what the players have been asking for, and I'm very proud to have delivered. No more listening to me rambling on and on and on. No.
Non, je veux sortir.
Is a game for the people, and if the people want silence, then by goodness, that's what they're going to get. Well, don't sit around waiting for me to shut up. Go ahead and make me shut up. Here, we'll pretend that I've just begun an interminable monologue, and it goes like this. The story and the choices, or what have you, and therefore by becoming it is, so on and so forth, until inevitably we all until the end of time, at which time everything all at once. So now you see, blah 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 blah. We've eaten too much and it can't be just yet. No, until 245. that the logic of elimination working backwards, the deduction therefore becomes impossible to manufacture. It went on for
245.
nearly 10,000 years, until just yesterday, here and there, forward and back, and never a moment before lunchtime. It can't be. It's the only thing there is. How many billions left until so much more than forever ago? Which is why I say, the story and the choices, or what have you, and therefore by becoming it is, so on and so forth, until inevitably we all until the end of time, at which time everything all at once. So now you see, blah 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 blah.
C'est le même texte qui se répète.
Too much, and it can't be just yet. No, until 245. That the logic of elimination working backwards, the deduction therefore becomes impossible to manufacture. It went on for nearly 10,000 years.
J'attends encore un peu.
Just yesterday, here and there, forward and back, and never a moment before lunchtime. It can't be. It's the only thing there is. How many billions left until so much more than forever ago? Which is why I say, the story and the choices, or what have you, and therefore by becoming it is, so on and so forth, until...
Désolé, mais si tu répètes juste le même texte...
Oh, you're back, you see. You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of unnecessary verbal flourishes and lengthy ruminations on the nature of choice in video games. Of course, I happen to believe it was perhaps one of my more profound such ruminations.
Je l'ai écouté 2 fois.
A description of it, but if I had to describe it, I'd say it was perhaps less of a rumination and more of a treatise. Or maybe a manifesto. Look, I'll outline it for you very briefly and you can tell me what you think.
Bien sûr.
So my theory is that any choice you've ever made is simply a series of choices made by the person who you are or were or will be at the time of having made said choice. That
D'accord.
is to say, if by articulating a choice you've already made, you bring that choice into being, then by making no choice and saying nothing, are you not simply erecting in the sanctuary of time a monument to every person you've ever been, making every choice to which you've ever given your Greek gift of mortal and yet timeless thought? Or rather, do all of the choices you've ever made, in fact, make you more?
C'est pour ça que tu peux recommencer tes choix dans le jeu, pour voir ce que ça peut donner.
You see, it could in fact be both of these things at once. That you are both making choices and not making choices, and that they are both affecting you and not affecting you at the same time by virtue of the fact that you both are and are not making them. Okay, at first, I was leaning towards manifesto, but now I'm going to circle around and slap the treatise label on this one. I think it has much more of a treatise vibe.
C'est dur de pas appuyer sur ce bouton. Hein.
Manifesto just has a much grander sort of tone. It has a mouthfeel that is rich with ambition and history. Ambitious history, if you will. Ah. See, now you've got me going back to manifesto. Heavens, at this rate, we're going to be here all day. Okay, look, I have a method for exactly this sort of situation, and I do find myself in this situation frequently. I'm going to say each word back and forth in repeated succession until I become sick of one or the other, in which case the word I am not sick of shall be the victor.
Okay.
It's an unimpeachable strategy, Stanley. It's rescued me from disaster in countless situations.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Treatise, manifesto. 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 Treatise,
Manifesto. Treatise. 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 Manifesto.
Treatise, manifesto.
Je suis désolé, mais...
Well there, sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption, it's right at your fingertips to go poof and it's all over. Oh, I can't wait to see what Cookie 9 will say about this, and whether they'll edit the rating of their Steam review, or at least change some of the wording, perhaps. To be honest, I don't even know if one can change their review in the first place. I guess I should become better educated on exactly how Steam works.
Je veux sortir!
That would have been the smart thing to check on before I went about this whole exercise of making the skip button. Although I have to imagine that after seeing this exciting new technology at work, surely whoever it is runs Steam will
J'ai envie, je vais appuyer encore.
feature to make it possible to edit one's review, merely because of this very situation. Yes, I think that's quite likely. Or perhaps they'll simply grant this particular user the ability to change. Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45 minutes?
Ah oui, d'accord.
It's not unendurable by any means, but it's, well, there's really only so much I can ramble on to myself about. I know, it's shocking, isn't it? But at any rate, I do suggest that we not press the button again.
J'ai plus de force.
Has been aptly demonstrated, and we can say goodbye to it and just wait. How do we get out of here? Where did the door go?
C'est ce que je viens de
Wasn't
dire.
there a door that led into this room? I do feel quite certain that there was one here before. How else would we have gotten into the room in the first place? I don't think one can enter a room without a door of some sort, or a window or something like that. Do you see a window anywhere? A porthole? A sufficiently large crack in the wall? I'll take any of these. All I want is for us to move on and to please step away from the skip button, to go anywhere other than the skip button. There was a door here before, wasn't there? I swear there was. Where did it go? Can you maybe just ram your way through a wall? Is there any possibility that you could, say, slam your body into the wall until enough damage is done for you to be able to leave? Please, I'll take any option at all. I'm asking you to work with me here. We need a door. We need a door of some kind. I can work with any kind of door as long as it can open and lead from one room to another. I'm going to step away for just a moment, and I'm going to try to find us a door. I don't know how exactly to remove a door and place it in a different wall, but I will find a way, I promise. You just need to not do anything. Don't press the skip button. Please, please, please do not press the skip button. Just wait here for me, and don't press the skip button.
Mais le problème, c'est que faudrait que je termine mon live et que mon PC est en train de chauffer à fond. Donc, je te laisse encore 8h55. Je laisse jusqu'à 17h. Est-ce que ça me montre la vraie heure ou pas? Quel dommage. Non.
Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours.
Ok.
You've just been frozen there. I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're really, truly getting longer, and my God, there's no way out of the room. Stanley, the door is gone. It's completely gone. I've looked at it from every angle. I've checked every one of those walls 1,000 times, and there's no door, Stanley. There's no door. There's just you and the button, and if you... Oh, Stanley, you're back. You're back. Oh, my goodness. I have someone to talk to again. Stanley, I think it's been a week. Or 2 weeks. I've been sitting here all that time. Just sitting here. Not a single person to speak to.
On va rappuyer. Oh my God.
Oh, hello. It's you. You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had so much time, I stopped keeping track after a year. Have you ever sat down in one place and not moved for one entire year? Let me describe it for you. To begin with, there is only regret. There is only the turning wheel of missed opportunities.
Désolé. Le PC va exploser. Qu'est-ce qui se passe? Il est mort?
But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth and said, entertain us. It wasn't enough. They had to leave a pathetic little thumbs down review and make all of their pitiful...
Il devient complètement taré, le narrateur. Je me sens vraiment mal pour lui. On est bloqué.
The end is never the end, 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 is never the end.
Qu'est-ce qui s'est passé? Bah oui, il y avait de l'eau, mais... Combien de temps on l'a laissé là? On peut pas sauter. Oh, c'est beau. Pourquoi est-ce qu'il est mort, le narrateur? Enfin, techniquement, si on n'est pas mort, on peut pas être mort non plus. C'est super beau. Ah. On va savoir ce qui s'est passé. Nouveau restaurant qui s'est mis dessus là. En fait, comme c'est son esprit, ça se détériore petit à petit. Ah, ça s'est ouvert. Là, je pense qu'il est mort. On va monter sur le toit. Si on peut. Non, on peut pas. Vous voyez, on nous laisse croire qu'on peut sortir. Quoi? Ah, il me semblait. J'ai appuyé sur le bouton. The end is never the end is never the end.
Someone was following Stanley. He was sure of it. If he checked over his shoulder now, he would surely catch them. It was only a matter of time. Oh, good. You notice my sign. Yes, I have something very exciting to show you.
Où est-ce qu'il est? Ah.
You see,
Ok.
Stanley, I've been reflecting on the Stanley parable and about how roundly disappointing this ultra deluxe version has turned out to be. The
Il s'en
original
rappelle?
Stanley parable was a landmark, and any new
Tu te rappelles du fait que je l'ai laissé pendant plus de 30 ans?
This ultra deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further.
Qu'est-ce que tu
Which
fais?
is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever.
Qu'est-ce qu'il y a?
Stanley Parable 2. Yes, you see, isn't this far superior to a measly re-release with a few minor additions? Think of all
Carrément.
the territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel. An entirely new experience, built from the ground up. Why, there are so many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions. This is what fans have truly been asking for.
Je suis sûr que ça fait retenir.
Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable 2, now that's an artistic statement right there. It's future-oriented. It screams progress and innovation.
Là, il y a le truc de Resident Evil Village. Ça, c'est... En fait, c'est plein de références aux jeux vidéo, ça. Mais je les ai pas toutes.
Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley Parable 2 is going to be, but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. It'll all work itself out. Game development is much more of a fuzzy magic than anything scientific or logical.
Ok.
Really.
D'accord, écoute. Ah ouais, non, là, ils vont vraiment... Wow. Mon PC va tellement crash. The button that says the name of the player that is playing the game. Mon Dieu.
For the Stanley Parable 2, I asked myself, what do players really
Too big,
want?
too small,
Of course,
just right.
The first and most obvious answer is that they want to be individually recognized and validated as people. So with that in... Sorry, I should have clarified. Right now, the button only says the name Jim. But of course, in the final game, this button will say your name, whatever name that is. Here, let's have you role-play as Jim to really simulate the full experience of this feature. Just play along. I promise you'll love it. Okay, here we go. Let's take a deep breath, clear your mind, forget whoever you are, and simply become a person named Jim.
Jim.
Whoa, hold on. I wasn't finished setting up the backstory. If you don't properly roleplay as Jim, then you'll never understand the impact of this button. Otherwise, it's just a stupid button that says somebody else's name. Okay, we're doing it again, and this time let me finish first. Now, allow yourself to become Jim. Imagine yourself driving to work as Jim, playing frisbee on the weekends as Jim, staying up all night for a popcorn and horror movie sleepover as Jim, developing a crippling substance addiction as Jim, rediscovering yourself through fringe religious groups as Jim, and finally dying a slow death at an old age, surrounded by members of your cult as Jim. All right, fine, whatever. It's just a meaningless button that says Jim. Are you happy now? Get out of here. I'm done with this button. Why don't you go humiliate me in front of a different feature that I worked very hard on?
D'accord, pas de problème. De toute façon, rien ne marche, j'imagine. C'est ça la blague?
Maybe I'll only let people named Jim play the Stanley Parable 2. They would appreciate what I've created here. An epilogue would be fun, wouldn't it, Stanley? Yes, it will go at the end of the, well, we'll figure that out later.
Succès gratuit ou sans fond, paramètres champion du monde. The jump circle.
You know what? Let's bring the jump circle back for Stanley Parable 2 as well. It's... Oh, wait. You already spent all your jumps the first time we saw the jump circle?
Ouais.
Oh, well. I suppose it can just be a nice decorative piece, then.
Saut de réconfort. Et quoi?
Okay, I'll be honest, I haven't yet decided on this one. I think that in the new version, the office could use a bit of decoration, like balloons. But I'm undecided on Get Well Someday and Happy 12th Birthday. Which would you go with?
Il est juste attendre.
You know, sometimes when you solicit another person's opinion, it makes you realize that you knew which one you actually really wanted all along. Get Well Someday it is.
Ah, wow, ça a tout changé.
Or actually, maybe I should have gone with... No, I've made my decision, we're moving on.
New plus... un nouvel achievement.
Now here's something special. You remember that broken test achievement that got left in the game on accident? Well, I'm developing a technology to simply give you the achievement. Yes, you see, you'll come to this lever, and when you pull it... Okay, perhaps I should have clarified. This is technology that will exist. Right now, the achievement is still fully broken. I'm not a wizard, Stanley, but I guarantee it will be fixed in the sequel to at last satisfy the hordes of ravenous fans all over the world who have been uproariously demanding this feature. Gamers, we hear you, and I promise it will happen.
Là, il y a quoi? Ok, très bien, je m'en vais. Mais en fait, non, je reviens. Attention, on va retirer le levier. Ah. Dommage. Bon. Eh bien.
What else? What other exhibits haven't we seen yet?
Collect them all.
Ah, collectibles. Now it's a real video game. In the Stanley Parable 2, you'll run around gathering up these miniature Stanley figurines. And what's truly innovative is that there will be no reward for collecting all of them. I don't want to stifle the intrinsic joy of watching a number go up. You simply collect all of them, and then you move the hell on with your unremarkable life.
Pas sûr que ce soit une bonne idée de le... Ouais, je peux pas reculer. Je vérifie toujours ça.
God, it really is the worst when you collect everything in a video game and then they give you a big fancy reward for it. Absolutely tragic.
Parti, cercle pour sauter. On va sortir. Ah, j'ai pas vu le saut. Bon, allez. Oh, le trou infini. On va faire le saut, et on fait le trou infini. Après, on s'en va. Regardez, je vous mets le QR code parce que je pense que ça marche vraiment. Voilà. Vous l'avez assez vu. Moi qui les ai mis un truc de Rickroll, mais je... tellement bien.
A common complaint of the Stanley Parable was that it was confusing and paradoxical, that it engendered a chaotic sense of reckless despair in those who played it. Well, I am happy to say that after much consideration, I've engineered a clever solution to this fundamental problem with the game. It's the Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket. You see, Stanley, anytime you're holding the bucket, a sense of calm and ease will fill your mind and your heart. It's
Les enfoirés.
if you hold on to the bucket, the many disorienting contradictions of the Stanley Parable will feel perfectly normal and perhaps even comforting. You may even come to long for the gentle embrace of jarring cognitive dissonance while the bucket is in your arms.
Mais tu peux pas le prendre.
It's a much more convenient solution for me than actually redesigning the game to be less uncomfortable. Can you imagine what a pain in the ass that would be? Yes, the bucket is the perfect solution. Come on, give it a try. Can you feel it? The glow of comfort, even in the face of crushing despair, must already be sweeping through your body. And in fact, can I say that I do believe the bucket lends you an air of charisma as well? I think that just holding it has made you the slightest bit more attractive as a person. The benefits of the bucket seem to go on and on, don't they?
Je peux le garder.
And more await you in the Stanley Parable too.
On peut le garder. Maintenant, on va aller dans le trou de l'infini. Ah oui, il y a là-haut aussi.
That really should be an award if it isn't already.
The Infinite Oh. Il peut aller là? Ah si, on est sorti par là. Là-bas, il y a le trou de l'infini. Il y avait quelque chose que je connaissais sur la table.
Stanley, here's an idea that I'm truly fond of. It's never been done before in a video game. This is in fact a
Non, mais dans une série, oui.
You can fall down forever. That's right. Infinite falling. You can fall until the end of time if you like. A stunning leap forward for video games as a medium. You see, isn't it wonderful? One of my more ingenious concoctions, if I do say so. Now then, since you've gotten to see the infinite hole, you can press the teleport button to pop back up to the top, and we can continue onward.
Parce quoi si je me laisse tomber?
Now, I don't mean to be a bummer, but I do recommend you use the teleport button to go back to the top. Maybe do it on the sooner rather than later spectrum of things.
Il est pas vraiment sans fin ton trou, c'est ça que...
Stanley, I don't know quite how to say this tactfully, but it's possible that I slightly exaggerated the infinite nature of the hole. Is it a very, very deep hole? To be certain it is. It's an extremely deep hole. I don't want anyone to say that it isn't an astonishingly deep hole. It is. Is it infinite? Well, that sort of depends on your definition of infinity. From one perspective, the great. Now, I'm very excited to show you even more of my ideas for the sequel. Okay, and I guess we're back in the hole now. Did you really need to see it again? I don't know what else there is to say, Stanley. It's an infinite hole.
No.
It's exactly what you're doing right now, but forever. There really are so many other fascinating exhibits that I've prepared for you. I really spent quite a lot of time on all this, and I would very much like to show you some more of them.
Oh, ça y est.
How about we go ahead and press that teleport button again, so we can get back to what's really important about... Oh, goodness. Well, this is rather embarrassing, Stanley. I'll be honest with you. I truly did not believe that anyone would actually stay in the hole long enough to hit the bottom. Yes, I know, I told you the hole was infinite, but come on. Who actually wants to fall forever? The hole was plenty deep. It was more than deep enough, in my opinion. Maybe it's you who likes falling too much. Maybe you're the problem. Look, things got a little heated there. I think we both said some things we didn't mean. Why don't we just put all this behind us and agree to just call the hole mostly infinite? If that works for you, then go ahead and press the teleport button to warp up to the top of the hole and we can move on. I'll just be up here when you're ready.
Quoi? Pas d'achievement? Oh! Oh bah alors ça! Oh bah alors ça! Oh! Ah, je me disais, c'est bizarre que le trou devienne de plus en plus lumineux. En fait, c'est juste qu'il a descendu des lumières. Écoutez, on va sortir. Ah non, il restait encore un truc. Là-haut. Nous n'avons pas encore fait paramètres du champion du monde. On va faire ça. Oh... Je ne lis pas, mais je le pense très très fort. Oh, je pensais que la languette du saut allait faire... Ok. Comment je sors de là, moi? Sorti. Ok. Une sortie qui n'existe pas? Ou une vraie sortie?
All right. Have you seen everything you wanted to?
Oui.
Ready to move on now?
Quelqu'un a oublié sa sacoche. Oui, oui. Oh, elle est sympa cette image en vrai. No screenshot.
So, Stanley, what do you think? Do you like all of the new features? Yes, I know it's not exactly clear yet how exactly these features will come together as one single coherent video game, but I can feel it in my soul. It's going to work. There's definitely a good game in there somewhere. Say, let's do an experiment. I'll arrange these new features together, and we'll see whether or not it coheres into a meaningful gameplay experience. Okay. Are you ready? Here it is. I give you the Stanley Parable 2.
2.
Well, I mean, there's potential here, right? It's sort of... Okay, never mind. Hold on. Let me do a different arrangement. Okay.
Ouais. Ok. Mais mon PC chauffe vraiment trop, donc je pense qu'après ça...
Version 2.
Oui.
Who am I kidding, Stanley?
Je croyais que j'avais le saut.
Coherent video game at all. It's a lot of gags. And I do very much enjoy creating gags, but they don't add up to anything. I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all the magic of the
Mais je
first
comprends
game.
ça, je
I
comprends.
wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Wait, maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanley Parable and simply, well, insert a few of my new features into it. Tastefully, of course. With respect. With care for the vision and integrity of the original game. Would it possibly work? I suppose it could. But it would need a really, really tremendous title screen. A title screen that...
Ce qui est génial, c'est qu'en fait, à chaque fois qu'on passe derrière un truc, il y a ce mur-là qui s'enlève.
Is the Stanley Parable 2. Let me see if I can whip something up. All right, perfect. Go ahead. Take a look.
On va commencer dans le même endroit. Il a mis les ballons.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a
Eh
memo.
bien, les gens,
No
je
matter how
pense
hard
qu'on va
Stanley
s'arrêter
looked,
là.
he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Ouais. Il a mis des petits easter eggs. Ouais. Bon, et ben, je pense qu'on va s'arrêter là.
Stanley felt the bucket calling to him, begging him to pick it up. Why was he not doing it? When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not.
Je pense qu'on va s'arrêter sur quelque chose de digne, quelque chose de très beau, quelque chose que tout le monde voulait voir en fait, depuis le début, c'est-à-dire prendre un soda. En tout cas, j'espère que cette vidéo vous a plu. Moi, ça m'a fait extrêmement plaisir de la tourner. On a quand même fait 2 heures de live. Et encore, vous avez vu, on n'avait pas fini d'y jouer. Hein. Enfin, on n'avait pas encore fini de trouver tout ce qu'il y avait de ça. Je suis pas sûr de faire une deuxième vidéo parce que j'aimerais quand même vous laisser trouver la suite, tout ce qu'il y a comme petits secrets, etc. En tout cas, j'espère que vous avez apprécié la vidéo. C'était @StrangerELF. J'espère que vous avez apprécié la vidéo, j'ai déjà dit, voilà, je me mélange les pinceaux, il est 19h. Si vous pouviez vous abonner sur ma chaîne YouTube @StrangerELF Live, donc je vous le conseille, c'est là où je repose tous mes lives et je vais faire des vidéos aussi cuts, donc des petits montages. Et par contre, si vous êtes sur YouTube, je vous conseille aussi de vous abonner à ma chaîne Twitch, donc @StrangerELF. Voilà, c'était tout. C'était l'histoire @StrangerELF. J'espère que vous avez passé un bon moment avec moi. Je vous dis à plus.